Welcome everyone. This is the Apple developer. I'm Jeff Grant, and I'm here with my teammates Max Ogienko, Sanjeev Thakkar, and Ian Vick. And just to give you a brief description of what our developer actually does before we begin, it combines a selection of market criteria, scenario optimization with a risk optimizer, obviously, and results visualization with MapPoint to create a comprehensive application that's useful to the chief marketing officers of really any company, big or small. And it helps them decide where and how to best expand to new locations within the United States. So now we just are going to click here to begin. And quickly you can see, just in the top left, that we have a bunch of constraints that are user inputted. The budgeted rent is actually really the only user controlled. It's actually in increments of $1,000. The user is able to create a monthly budgeted rent total for future stores and during its expansion strategy. So we can see that it's actually very intuitive, very easy to use. But in this case, we're just going to set it at an even $500,000. Actually, the most unique aspect about this is the market selection criteria. And what we decided to do is do some market research into Apple specifically, and we found a selection of different demographics that we felt were most important to Apple as a company when trying to select new store locations. So this can be used to check or unselect them all, but a user could just as easily, say for example, choose total population, full-time college students, households operating Mac OS system, and say households visiting electronics stores. But in this case, we're just going to select them all. Now, on your right, you can see MapPoint has been used to take into account all the existing store locations that are currently used with the silver Apple logo. And we'll talk to you later about how we got these red ones. But for now, just know that you can actually implement all the existing store locations and automatically refresh them to give you a visual representation of where you're currently located. Now, if we click Select Categories here, we're going to see that our program actually tabulates a score for all of these new cities and ranks them according to the top score. But before we really get into that, if you look here on the left, Apple is able to input all their existing store locations here on the left and is able to filter them out from the top 250 most populous cities, as you can see with our note on the right, and create the ideal new store locations. And surprisingly enough, Apple actually does not have a store in Philadelphia or Detroit, but you can see that maybe Apple did not know this, or maybe they knew about it, but they just didn't know when they actually wanted to do this. So based on the top 250 most populous cities, we now have a list of brand new store locations ranked by city score. Now, when we got the scorecard, if we click down here, we can see that all the top 250 cities are currently ranked based on a variety of the different demographics used. Now in this case we selected all of them earlier, so they're all highlighted in black here. However, if we selected, say, only total population, college students, and Apple products, everything else would be grayed out except for that. So it's a very easy visual representation to show the user exactly what they selected when they wanted to create a scorecard. Now if we go back to our new locations here, we can see that there's now a rent per month total, and we actually haven't covered this yet, but this is actually going to be used down here. This is going to be used with the same list of 250 cities that we used earlier to filter out, and these are actually ranked according to the rental rates per month. Now unfortunately, using Simply Map, we couldn't find actual retail rental rates, but we actually found a way around this by using a housing proxy. And what this is these are all the rental housing rates for each city based on a specific rental city. Now in this case, say we want to use Atlanta, Georgia. We could simply scroll up to the top here. And we could actually, currently, there we go. Currently Atlanta is our default option, so it's very easy for the user to go back if they felt like they messed something up. But what this does is it sets Atlanta as a reference rate, and according to its rank within the top 250 cities, it is able to create a ratio. And say a user knew Atlanta's rental rate per square foot, they're able to then kind of guesstimate the rest of the country without having to go through a lot of a lot of calculations and a lot of market research data that would be very hard to get or very costly to get. And obviously we need to get a total rental area per store if we want to get a total rental monthly rate. So in this case, let's use, say, an even 6,000. And as you can see, the most expensive city is Sunnyvale, California, with about $28,000 per month. So now, where do these numbers go? Well, these numbers actually go back right to where our new locations tab was. And if you see, scroll over, if you see right here, they've now been updated. Where Philadelphia, right here, actually has a rental rate of about $13,675 a month. But this really doesn't do anything to us unless we take into account the score that it received earlier. And this is exactly what the city's score per dollar is. And the best way to think about this from a user perspective is the best bang for your buck. The higher the score, the better in this case, just because it's in a more efficient use of your monthly budget. So now we have this perfectly set up for Risk Optimizer, where what Risk Optimizer will do is it will use a variety of true or false statements with ones or zeros to then create the most efficient use of your marketing budget. And we'll save you the time, and we'll just tell you that we ran this overnight, and based on a $500,000 budget, we were able to get a list of all these cities for a period of 1 month. So now if we go back to the Apple Developer tab that we had earlier, we can now see that actually that list of cities has been refreshed to automatically show up in MapPoint. And you can see what's really great about this is there's really not much of a concentration in one area, which might be great for a store such as Apple, or sorry, a store such as a company such as Apple that wants to expand nationwide. And we can see here that although the Northeast is pretty heavily populated, it's now all over the place, which is actually probably a great strategy that Apple might not even have to. They could probably actually use this data, and it would be a pretty safe strategy. So now all the store locations have been linked to the front page for ease of use, and they've been updated into the city rent expense versus city attractiveness score, which is basically the best bang for your buck that we talked about earlier. And you can see that as the Risk Optimizer program is run, it is able to update this graph and show you what stores have actually been suggested by the decision tool and what stores have actually not been suggested but were in that list of new prospective cities. So in this case, if we give it more time, we might have a better relationship, but this is just a very easy visual way for the user to see how Risk Optimizer is actually has actually been used. So now just in closing, we feel like this is a program that, although this is Apple specific, it is very easy for a user to come in from either a big or small business or even from an academic perspective and do a lot of quick market research using this heuristic. And although this market selection criteria might be only useful to Apple as a company, what a user can do is, whether using SimplyMap or using any other data collection system, they're able to then paste in their demographics and update it automatically within this set of criteria. And then they're able to select however many they feel and run the program. And if we had more time, we could actually show you that just based on the criteria you select will have a profound effect on actually what stores this program ends up choosing, which we feel is really a tribute to how effective this program is. If you change any demographic, you're going to get a very proactive result. We feel like this is a system that can actually be improved upon in the future. Just in closing, just showing your existing locations tab again, we can see that for future use, what we've decided to do is use a web query to give the latitude and longitude coordinates, and then automatically use a calculation method to create the decimal values of these latitude and longitude coordinates, which would then be used within MapPoint to create a cannibalization method that unfortunately we will not be able to use just for the sake of time. But we feel this is a program that is a solid foundation that can be used by any other third-party developer to increase its effectiveness for both large and small parties. Thank you for listening, and we hope you've enjoyed watching the use of Apple Developer.